Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, a refresh of the new Sequin Connect for Manager Self-Service. My name is Brandy Helsby. Some of you may have quote-unquote met me before in our previous webinar or some of our training sessions, but if not, welcome. It's good to have everyone join us today. Looks like we still have some people logging into the webinar right now. So we'll give everyone a few more minutes before we get started. I will go ahead and talk about some tips and tricks today for the webinar for anyone who has any questions or access issues. Today's training session will last approximately 45 minutes, give or take, so we have some time for questions. If you are having any audio issues, please raise your hand and notify us via the questions window you see here on the slide. And if you have any questions at any time during the presentation, again, please submit those via the questions window. If we cannot get to your question in the webinar today, don't worry, we will have someone from one of the teams follow up with you. Not a problem. We are recording today's webinar, and you will get a copy of that link. When is it available? Probably tomorrow morning or afternoon. All right. Like I said, we're going to give it a few more minutes here before we get started and see if we have any problems or any questions from anyone who might be having any issues accessing or hearing today's content. All right, looks like we've got a good group today. All right, great. Let's jump in. Today we're going to talk about a few things. Like I said, a brief refresher from the training session that we had about 6 weeks ago, I believe those were. Seems like a lifetime ago, maybe. Obviously, everyone wants to know when we are going to be live in the new Sequin Connect. We'll give you some information about logging in. Then we're going to touch base on the HR actions and a little new update functionality to the system in regard to that. And then the payroll process, what's really important that everyone wants to know about, the timesheet submission. Today's group, everyone today on the webinar will either be using the timesheet entry function or autopay if you have all salaried employees. So those are the two items that we're really just going to talk about today. All right, great. Well, here we go. When are we live in the new Sequin Connect? It's October 2016. I'd say 10/1, October 1st for our purposes, but really for you, it'll be a little bit different. And here's why. You'll see employee data will be available. The dates we have are 9/30 and 10/7. And you may be asking yourself, what do those mean? And that's because we have the clients divided into two groups. Those of you that pay the first week of October and those of you that pay the second week of October. So as you can imagine, those of you that are in that first week through 10/7, you'll be able to see your information on 9/30. Those of you that are in the second week or later, you'll be able to see your employee information and history on 10/7. Okay? So you may be asking yourself, well, when is my first payroll? How do I know that? So don't worry. Managers, you are going to get a go live email, again, 9/30 or 10/7, that will have a plethora of information, okay, your We're Live email. It will have your first payroll date. It will also have a payroll schedule for you for the remainder of 2016. And then you'll also get a link to all sorts of resources, including recordings of the webinars, the previous webinars that we did, the demo for the timesheet submission, additional documentation, resource guides, etc. Okay, so you'll get all of that. You will have access to the legacy system through the month of October. Okay, so what does that mean for you? Now, what's important here is that you could run some reports year to date if you had 401k reports that you run. We've had some clients have questions about this. However, please know that if you don't get something that you find out that you need and after you no longer have access, you can contact the team and we can get that information for you. okay? But we did want to give a heads up if there's something you know you're going to need to go ahead and run that before the end of October. The same would hold for your employees. If they would like to go ahead and run or print any copies of their checks or vouchers, we would recommend that they do that out of the legacy system before October. They will have access to all of that through then. Same for any prior year W-2s. Okay, their 2016 W-2 will be available in the new system with all of their information. However, as we all know, it never fails. You need your 13, 14, 15, to 2015 W-2. And again, while they can always call the team at a later date to get it, it might be, not a bad idea if they want to go ahead and grab a copy of it for themselves now, just so they have it. Okay? Excellent. Now, in talking about the logging in and navigation, I mentioned that you're going to get your login information in the We're Live email that you get, okay? It will be a temporary password that you get via email, and you will prompt you to change it upon the first login, okay? Now, if you notice here, again, I have the URL listed on the bottom, okay? I'll need you to make note of that and bookmark it for access. In a few weeks, you'll get a separate communication letting you know when it is ready and that you'll just be able to access it off of the Sequin Connect page. But until everyone is all in the new system 100%, you'll want to use this, okay? And this is how you will access Manager Self-Service. Don't forget, as managers, you can also access Employee Self-Service directly through the dashboard, which I'll show you there in a second. Again, here's the dashboard. Once you log in, this is what it looks like. Some of you may remember this. We talked about it on the first training webinar. I'm not going to go through all of the different icons, but I wanted to give a couple of shout outs for some important items. You'll see here across the top, my company, my employees, and my payrolls. That's where all the menus exist for all of the different items that you'll use. You'll just click on those and it'll give you a drop-down menu for all of the different applications. Then you have the little report icon that looks like a little blue and white striped piece of paper. That's where you will find all of the in-house reports, okay? We'll talk about the standard payroll reports that you get later, but please know if you ever wanted to rerun some of those reports or a different report, you can do that by clicking on the report icon and finding the report in the listing. If you don't want to search through all of that and you just want to, as I like to say, Google it, you can just search up here in the search bar. You can search for your employees, reports, different applications, menus, etc. It's very handy. You may remember me going on and on about that before. Now, over here in the right-hand corner, notice you have that little question mark. Again, I mentioned that. Anytime you have a question in the system, if you click on that, it'll pop up some really helpful help topics, examples of the screens, if you're not sure what goes in a certain field, etc. Okay? The last thing I wanted you to take a look at over here is that My Favorites in the upper left-hand corner. This is going to be your saving grace. I highly recommend that you use this. It is so easy and such a great feature. When you're on screens that you know you're going to use on a regular basis, go ahead and click on the action bar, which is again those little blue pancakes over here in the right-hand corner, and select Add to Favorites. Once you do that, that menu will be listed, so you never have to search or go through a menu again. You can just directly access it via your favorites on the dashboard. It's really handy. All right, one more thing. I mentioned to you that where you get into your employee self-service, again, as managers, you see that little blue head up here in the upper right-hand corner. Think of that as yourself. You can change your password there, and that's where you can directly transfer into employee self-service for all of your own information. Check copies, taxes, etc. Okay, great. Now, let's talk about HR and personnel changes, okay? As I mentioned before, something that hasn't changed is that you can still access it through the My Employees menu at the top of the dashboard screen, okay? There's a drop-down menu here, and you can see all of those HR actions are listed. Employee termination, leave of absence, pay rate change, position change, and status type change. You can access all of those in the same manner, okay? And going forward, these are the only action items that will require approval by your payroll team, okay? addresses, direct deposits, all of that goes through automatically, as we talked about last time around. However, update, they just improved this functionality about 2 or 3 days ago, so that you're some of the first people to be seeing it. And what the difference is, you'll see here, I'm in the employee details screen, okay? And you can access the employee details right from your dashboard or the My Employees screen. And when you're in the employee details here, as I'm looking at this employee, Tara Ashley, I'm looking at her name tab. And you can see the employment status lives here, the employment type, the position. Well, if you notice these little icons that I've highlighted in orange, those are like shortcuts. If you're on the screen, I need to change her status to, her type to part-time, or I need to change her position to manager instead of administrator. And you realize that has to be done. When you're looking at the detail, you don't have to go out of the screen into the HR actions. You can just directly access it from the employee detail. So it's a nice little shortcut. The same thing holds true for the pay tab. If you were in the pay tab and you realized, oh, I forgot to put that increase in, or I need to take care of that, you can go directly from that screen. No need to go out into the My Employees menu and access it through HR action, okay? Again, you can still access it through there. It's just not a requirement. There's a couple of different options for you. So this is a nice new functionality. Now, I know we've just touched on a few things, but are there any questions thus far? Oh, someone asked about favorites. Do the favorites include reports? So that is a great question. Unfortunately, the answer is no. You can't add reports to your favorites. It's just not a functionality that they offer this time. But luckily, like I said, they are all listed off the dashboard, and we'll talk about it in a few minutes, where you can access all of your standard reports on one screen, so you don't need to go through and search for those. So great question. I do believe, by the way, the reason why reports are not available on the favorites is because you are using a lot of different, or you have the possibility to do some different sorting or different parameters, and that's why they don't have those available as a favorite, because they could change every time. But that may be a functionality that they change in the future. So, great question. Anything else? All right. Excellent. Well, the main part that we want to talk about, as I mentioned today, is the timesheet submission. Now, you may remember, those of you that were on the last webinar, we did walk through a demo. We're not going to go through that same demo today, but we still have that available, and you'll get all of those links in the resources that we will send out in the We're Live email that you'll get either 9:30 or 10:07, okay? So today we're going to touch base on those of you who are using the web timesheet entry, which is manually entering your payroll hours or earnings, and those of you who are an auto pay or auto timesheet. And that is a setup where we will just automatically generate and process your timesheet for you. That is, generally speaking, for people who have an entirely salary-only payroll, okay? Now, if you have any questions about that, or you're not sure that you have the right setup, again, reach out to the team and let us know, but you would have received emails from that. And obviously, when we sent out the invitations today, we were addressing this for clients who have the setup of timesheet entry or auto timesheet. But if you feel like, for any reason, you have the wrong setup, please reach out to the team and let us know, okay? Now, something that hasn't changed at all are the reporting timelines, all right? So you'll see here on this table, if you are a weekly or biweekly pay cycle with a Thursday pay date, your reporting deadline will remain 10 a.m. Monday, with your payroll being posted on Wednesday and delivered on Thursday. If you're weekly or biweekly with a Friday pay date, your reporting deadline is still 5 on Monday, with a post on Thursday, receiving it on Friday. And if you're semi-monthly or monthly, your reporting deadline is 5 p.m., 4 business days prior to the pay date, payroll posting 1 business day before the pay date, and then payroll delivered on the pay date. All right, so none of that has changed. Now, you may remember that I mentioned previously, something that will be a little bit different now is the remote cutoff, okay? So if you have not submitted your time by the deadline, for instance, let's say you're a Friday pay, and it's 5:30 on Monday and you realized, I got stuck on, in traffic, or I got stuck in a meeting, or at the airport, or the dog ate my homework, or whatever possibly could have happened, you're going to need to reach out to the team so they can hand you back basically the reins, give you back the control of the timesheet, okay? We do understand that occasionally, circumstances like that come up, but the reason why we're excited about the remote cutoff is that we hope it will allow for a more streamlined process for our payroll teams to get that processed for you more quickly and efficiently. So we're hoping that everybody can adhere as much as possible to those cutoffs and that reporting deadline. So if you have any questions, again, reach out to the team, and if you have missed the deadline, we can give you back the timesheet, so to speak. Okay? All right. Move forward here. Accessing the timesheet. So you've heard me say some of these things over and over. I'm sure you're sick of hearing about it, but you can access it a couple of different ways. You can click here on My Payrolls on your dashboard from a drop-down to find the timesheet entry, or you can search for it up here in the search bar. Okay. Now I am going to point out, do you notice these little blue arrows on this gray bar here when you get this suggestion? These little blue arrows. You'll see these whenever you're trying to access different menus, not employees, but menus. When you're accessing these menus, let's say you're in the timesheet entry, or you're entering something else and you want to pull up another screen to take a look at it. You can do this by clicking on that little blue arrow. It will just pop the screen out, and when you're done, if you need to make a change or view something, you close right back out of it and you never leave the screen that you were originally in. So it's just a little handy tip or trick. In this case, we're going to go ahead and go directly to the timesheet entry page. Now, when you're on the timesheet entry, as you'll notice in this example, I only have one payroll listed. For some of you who might have multiple pay groups, or possibly maybe you have an hourly and a salaried payroll, you could have more than one. So you would obviously select the payroll that you wish to access to enter time. Now, for auto pay people, you obviously will not see this. You won't have access to a timesheet, okay? This is just in the situation for anyone who's doing manual time entry, okay? Once you're in this timesheet entry page, remember I mentioned those little pancakes earlier? All right, this is where you're going to click here and select Add to Favorites. That way this will always be present on your dashboard in that upper left-hand quadrant underneath My Favorites, and you don't have to go searching for it again. Once you access the timesheet, we'll bring you to this Timesheet Summary page, okay? Now as I mentioned, we walked through a demo of this last time, and we still have that available for you to view if you'd like to watch that again. We're not going to walk through it again today, but what I will highly recommend, do you see this little camera up here? It's like a little blue bubble with a video camera. It's in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. That is about a 4.5-minute video. There's about 4 little sections that walk you through very clearly how to enter time, okay? It is a wonderful tool. I highly recommend watching it if you have any questions, okay? It's going to walk you right through the process. Timesheet, detailed timesheet, it's very, very user-friendly, okay? As you can see right here, it's pretty easy. You'll just click in the, you'll just click in the file. I have to remember I'm not actually in the system right now. Click on the file and enter the regular overtime, PTO hours, etc. Enter if they have any bonus earnings, tips, so on and so forth, okay? Now, let's say you have an employee. Perhaps you need to allocate some of their hours to a different department or possibly to a different location. You can do that by clicking on their name to bring up the detail time entry screen, okay? Once you do that, you could split it apart and say, oh, I would like Clinton Baker to work 40 hours at our Westerville location and 25 hours at our Bexley location, and you can do that. Now, I will give you a little tip. Once you've entered those regular hours and split those out as far as something that's outside of his default, those hours will now show up in the detail hours. So I've had some questions around that from people who say, hey, how come, I'm not seeing those anymore in the PTO or the reg? It's because they're going to appear in the detail, because that's how you have categorized those as a separate sort of detail time entry, okay? All right, now if you have auto pay, obviously, as I mentioned, you won't see this screen, but if there is ever a situation where you need to make a separate entry for an auto pay, you can request that we make this timesheet available for you, which is why I wanted everyone to see this today. Okay. Let's see. It looks like we have a couple of questions before I move on. Let's see. Summer interns. I'm not 100% sure I understand that question. Are you saying you have some? Oh, okay. So you'll still be, in that case, thank you. In that case, you will still be a timesheet entry because you'll need to manually enter hours for the summer interns. However, it's going to autofill those salary people for their hours, okay? And that's how you'll process that for the remainder of the time that you have summer hourly associates. If at the point in time that you no longer have those hourly associates, reach out to the team and let us know after they're terminated, and we can put you back on strictly auto pay, so you won't need to enter anything into the timesheet. Okay? And you can always contact the team and let us know when that obviously happens, so we can make that change. Okay? All right. Let's see. Okay, great. Any other additional questions about timesheet submission? Okay. You should have received the payroll submission overview already in an email. You'll get a link in that We're Live email to a step-by-step process document that will come out in either the 9:30 or 10:07 email. We'll get those, simulations are available for you, that demo that we walked through as well. But you'll have all of the resources then. I understand you'll come up with questions the first time you get into the system is only natural. So again, just feel free to give us a call. And I would definitely recommend watching that video that we talked about earlier. Any other questions about the timesheet submission? All right. Let's move on and talk about approving payroll, okay? Now, I know that a lot of clients are not currently set up to approve payroll, and that's totally fine. You don't have to. What will now happen is you'll finalize your timesheet, okay? If you want to, you can print that timesheet report that I talked about last time, just to get a record of what you've submitted. You will not have any reports that come back to you immediately. It will come to the payroll department, to the service department. They will go ahead and calculate, process your payroll, do any adjustments that are necessary, and finalize and post it. And then you'll have access to those reports at end of business. For example, if you're a Friday pay date, you would have that by end of day on Thursday. Those reports will be available to you, okay? And that's fine. You won't get any other email or any of the reports until then. You'll just see those reports after we've finalized, okay? However, if you do choose to approve payroll before it is posted, you will finalize your timesheet. It will be sent off to the payroll managers. They will go ahead and process your payroll. Once they have calculated and audited, they will then send you an email, and a copy of your display invoice will come with that new functionality, advising you that your payroll is available to review. Okay, so that's not an instantaneous thing. Just so you know, you hit finalize, you don't get that email right away, because obviously we have to do our magic behind the scenes. Now, again, if you're not approving, you won't get an email. Then you'll just look for your reports at the end of business day after your payroll has posted, based on that schedule we talked about, okay? If you do approve, you'll see here my company drop down. The approvals pending menu is located under company action, or you can use my happy Google bar, as I like to call it, the search bar there at the top, okay? Now, how do I access my payroll reports? We've had some clients ask this. Where are they? Where do I find them? Okay, a couple different things. The easiest way, in my opinion, is right off the dashboard, okay? You can jump right here to your recent payrolls. You'll choose, obviously, the most recent one. There's the pay date, etc., okay? You'll click there. It'll take you right to your payroll summary page. If for whatever reason you're looking for something as we go on through time and it's down off of that front page, you can also go to payroll history, which is under my payrolls, or you can search for it. but truly just clicking right here off the dashboard. It's a quick way for you to go directly to your summary and all of your standard reports. Once you click there, this is the page you'll see, the payroll summary. As you can see, there's lots of information here, your pay date, the period start and end date, if you just verify that you're in the right place. You'll have all of your employee vouchers. If you click on the voucher number, it's going to pull up every individual voucher so you can look at each employee if you would want to. But what most of you will look at right here, this little report icon that you see with the little orange arrow, that is a direct link to take you to all of your standardized reports. Now, we went over several of these in the original training, but I'll tell you, I think that a lot of you will use this benefits billing report, the first one on the list. Probably several people will be interested in the client allocation report. That is pretty much a direct correlation to the detailed cost in the legacy system. The payroll check journal is what would really take place of the pre-check detail and summary reports from the previous system. Then obviously at the bottom there you have the invoice, the standard invoice. Very similar format. You might notice a few things that are different. I will mention, and I actually forgot to talk about this earlier, I will mention in the invoice, one of the differences that we've had some people question about, before, if you had a fringe payment such as a GTL, you would see that as returned to you as a credit. In the new system, you're not going to see that as a credit. We've just basically, it's not included in your gross wages any longer. So instead of being an in and an out, it basically just comes in for taxation purposes, but we don't actually include it in your gross wages. So in case that looks a little funny to you the first time around, we basically just removed it from view. So it's there for the employees to be taxed upon, but we never bill you or, and then credit you for it. Basically, we're just taking that extra step out. Otherwise, the invoice looks exactly the same. In my opinion, it looks very similar. Now, you'll see here, right here, all these little icons. Those are the PDFs. You'll click here, and that will take you, or pardon me, that will bring up the PDFs of each of these reports. Some of you may want to run some of these in a different format. If so, pretty much most of these reports, not all, but most of these reports can be accessed out of the reports icon on the dashboard, and you can choose Excel. Again, we talked about that in the original training, and you can export those to Excel. You can email it to yourself, whatever you so choose. Any questions about those reports after payroll has been finalized? And again, we totally expect that people will have some questions, and, feel free to call us that first week. We know we'll have a high volume of calls. That's okay. Just we ask that everyone be patient with us during the transition, and we will get everyone taken care of. No more questions today? Let's see. Detailed deduction by deduction report. It's a little bit different. There's a deduction code report and then the benefits billing detail report. Both of those should accomplish what the detailed deduction by deduction code report provided you previously. It'll look a little bit different, but it will provide the employee and the employer contribution, which is, I think, what you would want from that. Also, I should mention that we'll have a document to be included with those resources that you will receive on the We're Live email, and that will be sort of a matrix of that was then, this is now. So you can see a report, what the report was in the legacy system and what it is now in the new Sequin Connect. So you can kind of get an idea of what you're looking for to get the same information, okay? And if there's something missing and you're not sure off of that report, again, just give us a shout out and we'll find it for you, okay? Reports automatically emailed. Unfortunately, that is not an option yet, a functionality in the system, but I can definitely put that forward as an idea to the developers. But at this point, you would just need to log in at the end of business, the day that your payroll is posted, to see those standard reports. All right. So let's summarize what we've talked about today. October is our go live, October 1st, in our world. Managers, look for your We're Live email starting either 9:30 or 10:07, okay? And again, you'll get your first payroll date, your login information, your link to all of your resources, as well as the payroll submission schedule for the rest of 2016. That's a very important email, so keep an eye out for that one. Now, your employees will also receive their version of the We're Live email, 10-3 for the first group and 10-10 for the second group. And that will be their information about how to log into ESS and access the system for the first time, along with some, instructions about where everything is. You will also be receiving that as managers. And we did that so that you can see what we're sending out to your employees. But remember, you will not need to register yourselves separately on ESS, because as managers, you can directly access employee self-service from that little blue head that we talked about on the dashboard. So you will not need to register a second time. Feel free to use their link if you want to get in, and just know that your username and password will work in the same manner. But for most of you, you'll be in manager self-service all the time, and it will be easier to access it from there. Okay? And again, we've had some questions about the reports. They are available as soon as payroll is finalized. Okay? Any other questions today? That went a little bit quicker than I was thinking, so we've got a few more minutes if anyone has any questions for us. If not, if you think of something after we're done today, feel free to shoot the team an email or give us a call, and we can help you out from there. Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time. We know it's going to be a busy next couple of weeks. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to help. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.